You know, we talk a lot about artificial intelligence revolutionizing medicine, and honestly, the stakes could not be higher. We're talking about algorithms that can literally spot a tumor on an X-ray faster and way more accurately than the human eye, or predict patient outcomes with a startling precision. The potential to save lives here is absolutely massive. But there is this giant elephant-sized roadblock standing in the way of actually deploying these life-saving models across hospitals worldwide. And that roadblock is exactly what we're unpacking in today's explainer, as we dive into a really groundbreaking piece of research that introduces something called MobenFL. So it really all boils down to this one critical dilemma. How in the world do we train these incredibly complex, life-saving medical AI systems without ever sharing a single patient's data? See, deep learning models are notoriously data hungry. To get truly accurate and reliable, they need to ingest massive data sets. I mean, in a perfect world for a computer scientist, you just take every single medical scan from every hospital on the planet, dump it into one giant centralized server, and train this ultimate superbrain. But out here in the real world, we're dealing with real people, real diseases, and highly sensitive, deeply personal medical records. And that brings us right to the privacy roadblock. Laws like HIPAA here in the US or GDPR over in Europe, they are absolutely essential. They exist for a reason, to protect us, strictly regulating how sensitive patient information is handled. But because of these strict regulations, that traditional AI approach of just aggregating multi-center medical data in one place, it's not just difficult, it is practically and legally impossible. A hospital literally cannot just pack up its patients' data and ship it off to some third-party server. So AI researchers find themselves in a really tough spot. They have the mathematical architecture to build these incredible diagnostic tools, but they're legally locked out of the data they actually need to train them to their full potential. To make things even trickier, we have to consider the nature of the data itself. Hospital data is not uniform at all. It's highly heterogeneous. Think of it kind of like a massive, complex tasting menu where every restaurant specializes in something totally different. For example, Hospital A might be this renowned neurology center with thousands of brain MRI scans. Meanwhile, Hospital B is an oncology center staring at mountains of lung pathology slides through microscopes. If you train an AI solely on Hospital A's data, it becomes a total genius at brain MRIs, but it's going to completely fall flat on its face if you try to use it on Hospital B's lung pathology. This single-center training approach creates these really narrow, brittle models that suffer a massive drop in accuracy when you try to deploy them across different institutions. So how exactly are we going to solve this? Well, here is our roadmap for today. 1. The medical data dilemma. 2. How federated learning works. 3. The MobenFL benchmark. 4. Performance, privacy, and speed. And 5. Choosing the right algorithm. Let's start with part 1, the medical data dilemma. Current medical AI training methods are basically hitting a brick wall because hospitals are effectively data silos. They're walled fortresses, right? When researchers try to build a diagnostic model using only the data trapped inside one of those silos, the model essentially just memorizes the specific quirks of that one hospital's patient population and their specific imaging equipment. In machine learning, we actually call this the non-IID problem, which just means the data is not independent and identically distributed across different locations. So when that single hospital model finally steps out into the real world and visits a totally different hospital with different demographics and totally different scanning machines, its accuracy just plummets. It's a huge barrier to actually getting these tools into clinics. Which brings us to Chapter 2, How Federated Learning Works. Thankfully, there is a totally brilliant technological workaround for this. This is the paradigm shift that is finally cracking the code on medical AI. It's called Federated Learning, or FL, and it operates on a fundamentally different philosophy. So the crucial point you need to take away is this. Instead of moving the data to the model, Federated Learning moves the model to the data. It works in this really elegant 4-step dance. First, local training. The central server sends a base AI model directly to the hospitals. The hospital then trains this model locally, completely on its own private, secure data. Second, send gradients. Instead of sending any patient data back, the hospital just sends back the gradients, which is essentially just a mathematical summary of what the model learned. Third, server aggregation. The central server collects all these mathematical summaries from dozens of hospitals and combines them. And fourth, global model distribution. The server sends the newly updated, way smarter global model back out to the hospitals.
Just look at how this collaborative network is laid out here. The server sits right in the middle, and the clients, which are the hospitals, are out on the edges. The raw patient data never, ever leaves the hospital's premises. It stays firmly locked behind the hospital's firewalls, 100% compliant with HIPAA and GDPR. Only those encrypted model updates, just abstract mathematical numbers, are flying back and forth. This means the global model gets to learn from the incredibly diverse, heterogeneous data of all these participating hospitals, becoming super robust and generalized without ever risking patient privacy. It's an amazingly powerful solution. But of course, there's a catch. Because federated learning is such a massive, hot field right now, new algorithms are being invented constantly. So how does a hospital actually know which one works best in a messy, real-world clinical setting?
And that leads us to Chapter 3, the MobenFL benchmark. MobenFL is essentially the ultimate tournament for federated learning algorithms. Just look at this map of the human body. Previous benchmarks out there might have only looked at one type of data, maybe just lung scans or just brain scans. But MobenFL is different. It integrates 22 distinct medical imaging datasets covering 12 critical human organs. We are literally talking about everything from Alzheimer's disease brain MRIs to diabetic retinopathy in the eyes, all the way to colorectal cancer pathology slides. It is specifically designed to mirror the vast, complex reality of human medicine. And the researchers behind this didn't just test a couple of basic ideas. They absolutely scoured the field. They took 20 cutting-edge federated learning algorithms published over the last 3 years and threw them all into this single unified benchmark. And they categorized them by their underlying mechanics, which is super helpful. You've got your foundational models like FedAV, which is basically a simple weighted average. Then you have these highly advanced models categorized by network structures, regularization techniques, complex aggregation strategies, and specialized privacy and split learning models. It's a comprehensive gauntlet, purposefully designed to push all these algorithms to their absolute limits. Now, the testing isn't just about different organs, it is also about different modalities. The MobenFL benchmark forces these algorithms to handle multimodal medical data. This means an algorithm isn't just evaluated on how well it reads a nice, clean X-ray. It's evaluated on how well it adapts to X-rays and complex 3D magnetic resonance imaging and cellular-level pathological data, and even standard RGB images like skin lesion photos. It's testing real-world clinical scenarios where juggling different devices and different imaging techniques is just part of the daily routine. Moving into Chapter 4, Performance, Privacy, and Speed. So what actually happened when they pitted these 20 advanced algorithms against this massive 22 dataset gauntlet? Well, the researchers evaluated the algorithms kind of like judges in a high-stakes triathlon. Accuracy alone just isn't enough to win this race anymore. Every single algorithm was judged on 3 very distinct dimensions. First, cross-center generalization capability, which is basically just the accuracy. When the model learns from all these different hospitals, how well does it actually diagnose a disease? Second, algorithmic efficiency. How fast does it learn? Does it require endless rounds of communication that'll just choke up a hospital's bandwidth, or is it quick to converge? And third, privacy protection strength. How robust is the algorithm against some malicious attack trying to reverse engineer patient data from those shared mathematical gradients? When you dig into the results, the data reveals some really fascinating trade-offs. It is definitely not a uniform victory across the board. Take the contrast between efficiency and privacy, for instance. The algorithm FedGH was an absolute speed demon. It achieved the fastest total convergence time hands down because of its incredibly low complexity design. It's super efficient for communication. But if privacy is your absolute, non-negotiable top priority, say you're working with the most highly classified, sensitive genetic data imaginable, you actually wouldn't choose FedGH. Instead, you'd look at an algorithm like SplitFed, which vertically partitions the network and proved to be highly rated for privacy robustness, even if it takes just a bit more computational effort to get there. There's this great line in the paper where the researchers sum it up perfectly. They say, the practical deployment of FL hinges on navigating the complex interplay among model performance, computational efficiency, privacy guarantees, and generalization ability. I really love this quote because it grounds all the AI hype in reality. There is no magic bullet here. There is no single algorithm that is the absolute fastest and the most private and the most accurate across every single disease. Hospitals and researchers really have to carefully choose their tools based on their very specific priorities and hardware constraints. Which brings us to our final chapter, choosing the right algorithm. So how do you take all this dense, complex research and actually apply it in a real-world hospital setting? Well, the researchers synthesized all that massive data into a highly practical recommendation matrix. They didn't just dump a massive spreadsheet of numbers on us and say, good luck. They mapped out exactly which algorithms rise to the top across those different performance, efficiency, and privacy pillars, creating these clear tiers from highly recommend all the way down to less recommend. Let's shine a spotlight on the ultimate champions of the MobenFL benchmark, the highly recommended tier.
If your hospital is after top-tier performance and fantastic adaptability across a bunch of different tasks, PGFed is a phenomenal choice because it explicitly leverages information from other clients to guide personalized training. HarmoFL is right up there alongside it for raw performance. Now, if privacy robustness is your primary keeping you up at night concern, as we mentioned earlier, SplitFed is your go-to champion. And if you're just looking for excellent, balanced all-arounders that perform dependably across the board, FedNP and 𝗏𝗏𝗏 are the ones you want to deploy. These are the algorithms that successfully navigated the crazy gauntlet of those 22 diverse medical datasets.
On the flip side of that, the benchmark also tells us what we probably want to avoid for general deployment. Algorithms like FedGH, 𝗥cCl, and SplitAv fell into the less recommended tier. We noted earlier that FedGH is incredibly fast, right? But the benchmark revealed that its overall accuracy is characteristic of the bottom tier when it's dealing with highly heterogeneous environments, and it generally suffers from pretty poor privacy robustness compared to its peers. Now, they might have some niche uses in highly specific, super-controlled environments where speed is literally everything, but for generalized, secure clinical application, they just struggle to keep up. Ultimately, the MobenFL benchmark provides this critical compass for the future of medical AI. It proves that we actually can overcome the medical data dilemma. We can protect patient privacy while still building these incredibly smart, globally intelligent diagnostic tools. The technology is here, it is proven, and now, thanks to this benchmark, it's actually measurable. So, as federated learning matures and moves out of the computer science lab and into the local clinic, the question is no longer if your hospital's AI is going to collaborate across the globe, but rather which algorithm it'll use to do it. The future of collaborative, privacy-preserving medicine is looking incredibly bright, and the best part is, it's happening right now.